And we're live. All right. Thank you for setting it up, Kai. Welcome to yet another weekly meeting for the MR Report Widgets working group. And we don't have any announcements, but we do have some discussion items. Fernando, you want to go?
Sure. Welcome back, first of all, and I will share my screen and hopefully I'll give a quick background check, a quick recap of where we're at with license compliance, just for the people who I guess haven't been here in a while. So we implemented as best we could with the framework, the license compliance widget. So the trouble is the security widgets tend to be a little bit more interactive and more complex than the other ones. At least that's the kind of feedback we got. So one of the outstanding things that we have been discussing, and Jeremy and Becca have been very proactive in reviewing these issues that I've created. So I want to clarify, we have a workaround, we're not blocked, but I did want to resurface and emphasize that we would, at least representing this compositional analysis team and talking to Nicole, the product manager for that group, we do want to follow up on cleaning this up. So the problem is for license compliance, we have this idea of scanning a project for licenses. We have the license type and then a list of packages that were detected with that license. For license compliance, the ones that we really care about, and Nicole emphasized this, was that for the denied licenses, so licenses that are detected that are not allowed in the project, she wants it to be immediately visible here, ideally, because if you click on used by 24 packages right now, or we have this count, this is what I've currently implemented in the widget, and that's what the framework allows for. The problem with that is you don't have the visibility till you click on this. It's just a link to a full report, and you still have to dig around to find the licenses on that page. Not very efficient. So the alternative was to kind of imitate what we had in the existing component, which is this string, which is a very long one. And in the original designs, what we had was this over here. So you have the license, which is a link to the license itself, and then a list of dependencies. And then if you wanted to see all of them, you'd click, and 10 more, and it would expand and collapse. So that expand and collapse functionality we don't have. Now, when Jeremy and Becca review this, their feedback was, hey, can we just do something like this and add a link, which I did do. So that's the temporary solution. But for denied licenses, Nicole still wants this to be expanded out because they want to have that immediate visibility. You want to know why this MR is introducing denied licenses and what those dependencies are right here in this view. So what we're going to roll out for version 1 is for uncategorized and allowed licenses, we'll use this kind of compact used by X number of packages. But for the denied ones, we're going to show this big list. This list can get as big as, I've seen as big as 200 dependencies. So it's not going to look that nice and you're going to have to scroll a lot. But I don't think there's immediate action we need to take right now in this meeting. I'm just calling out that, at least from design, this is one use case that the compositional analysis team would appreciate some UX feedback on and workarounds.
Yeah, I got a question.
Yeah.
When you say that's what Nicole wanted, was that also what was that also information that was available to Jeremy and Becca when they met, or was that a follow-up discussion?
So what follow-up? This is follow-up. So when they met, so what I did was I created this giant epic that initially was intended to capture, hey, what are all the deficiencies from the legacy component to the new one to get 100% feature parity. And then the feedback I got from product was that we're not aiming for 100% feature parity. Nicole was not too prescriptive on how it looks, so long as some minimum things are available to the user. And one of them was, and the only one that we're technically want to follow up on, or the feedback I got, was that we want to have a way to much more cleanly show the denied licenses. Because right now, so I created this epic and they went through one by one, and for every single one, they had an existing solution or a recommended change to the original design. So the original implementation that fits within the framework. The one thing that was kind of that we wanted to follow up on. So this is one of those examples where they recommended, hey, instead of showing all these, can we just do a link and show the count to summarize it and then navigate you away? And the feedback I got from my team, or I guess from Nicole, product manager for composition analysis, was that, for version 1, that's fine, but ideally we do want to show the list of denied licenses with all their dependencies. So if we can't collapse them or not, just show all of them. But my feedback from the UX, and front-end engineering side of things is that this list can get very long. We don't have a lot of vertical scrolling space. It may be 200 items. So, I don't know how we want to approach it. There wasn't really much other than this kind of turning this into a link that we can support. We don't have any notion of expanding, collapsing string text, truncated text, or anything like that. And I don't know if that's a paradigm we want to introduce. I figure that's a UX discussion, but yeah, I'm happy to follow up after this meeting if anyone's interested to better understand. I could demo this if you need more clarity on what the actual challenge is. I'm trying to see. Yeah, I don't have an example of where that list is like 200 items, but it's basically this, and it's just more and more text. So,
So Fernando, before I move on to, I don't know if you're going to move on to the next one.
Sure.
I think it might be useful to have an issue tracking this specific proposal to add this to, is this the one?
Okay, yeah. So what I did was I created the epic to capture the work, to use the framework. And then I have what it is, I have it linked to the, yeah, I did. And that's in the working group epic. So
Good.
Ability to expand collapse supporting text. So what the use case, what we had before and what we have now. And here is,
that's enough. Yeah, that's perfect. That's exactly what we need. Can you link it here on the agenda so that we can all stay connected? But that's good. Thanks for
where it left off is that Jeremy and Becca did take a look, and they did recommend a proposal. And then this is just the second iteration of now giving the feedback from product that, we can go with what they suggested for now, but ideally we should follow up to see if there's any other way we can improve on that. Cool. So that leads into the status of license compliance and security dashboard. So from the license compliance side of things, we're only blocked on one backend thing that's not related to the working group. I just need additional data from the endpoint. So that's scheduled to be done next milestone. So if things go to plan, license compliance should be shippable as a new MR widget extension next milestone. Savas on Neil's team is out of office right now, but I wanted to, on his behalf, bring up this issue he had opened while he was trying to implement the security widget, which again is also a little bit more interactive, but here's the animated GIF. So basically, when you have these vulnerabilities, the old behavior was that they're clickable. So you could drill into the individual vulnerability and get more data specific to that vulnerability. So if you see here, you click into it and you have this modal pop up. The modal is, I assume the ask from him was that he needs a way to, I don't know where the discussion is. Basically, the way we could hook into it is have the component or extension emit an event, and he could hook into that outside of the event, outside of the component, I think was the intent. So I don't know if, well, two things. We don't know if like clicking a link and then opening a modal is currently part of the design spec to get UX feedback on that, because I don't know how else we would show this all this data unless we took them to a page. I mean, I think I may propose to him that we do have a single vulnerability view, and maybe have that link in the meantime point to the single vulnerability view page. I don't know if Yannick's here, if that kind of makes sense. Because that we have a single vulnerability view from the context of a modal, but we also have it as a single vulnerability view, right? A dedicated page. So I don't know if that's what we want to pursue from a UX standpoint. Like, do we want to support modals? If so, should we admit to an event? And if not, should they just be links to a dedicated page?
As a +1, the test report widget also uses modals. That widget is very similar to this security dashboard widget and just how it behaves and looks. And I don't think we'd be able to go a different route besides the modal. We don't really have another page that has the information that we can easily link to, at least.
So,
And it's
Yeah.
not possible to implement it this way, right? Today with the modal, you just have
no.
Okay, because I feel like this is a fair game in terms of like you've already defended from having widgets be super high or tall. So now you have a progressive disclosure that if you want to know more about this report, going to a modal seems particularly reasonable. So yeah, we'll track that issue. We'll raise it for implementation, and we can or again have the designers weigh in to make sure that is there anything that we should make a distinction on the link to show that it's a modal or not. But other than that, it feels like a totally reasonable thing for us to pick up to be added.
And I would also emphasize that the whole point of doing this widget extension was to standardize the UX. Anything that is open, the caveat is anything that's open in the modal is not in scope of the implementation as is right now. So this modal is specific to, it's going to be a completely different view component, one-off specific to secure. And I'm sure whatever other modals that are open are going to be uniquely structured as well. But I mean, I just wanted to call that out.
That's a great topic to discuss on the issue with the designers to see how. I don't know, Marcel, if you have to weigh in right now on the call, or we'll just defer to them.
Yeah, I want to have a closer look, especially on the secure side. Linking to the actual vulnerability sounds like it could simplify a lot, and it could make things a lot easier. Kind of sad to hear that this is not such a simple solution on the test summary. So we will need to look into that. I know there's the issue open. I'm going to probably add some details and link some and ping some other people from the design side to have a look together.
I also want to call out
Fernando,
that. Oh, sorry.
From a product side, do any of the engineers know if there's any instrumentation on those links or clicking on those links? And I ask because like one of the things that we want to do is simplify the widgets and not make them full-blown applications inside of the merge request, right? That's sort of not the point of quick reporting widgets. And so it would be good to know before we invest time in like extending to support modals and allowing all these other things to show up. Does anyone even interact with those or use those things? I mean, our sort of like our initial research is widgets aren't even expanded that often. So like now my question is like, if they're not even expanded that often, what is the likelihood that someone's clicking on the next thing in there? And so I think before we like dive into solutioning that piece, it would be really good to know, like, do we even need to do that? Like, we don't have to make parity all the time. Like we could make some decisions here, I think, without doing that too.
I don't, off the top of my head, I don't know of any metrics for that. I know in secure stage, we do track some metrics for interacting with some of the security features. I don't know if this is one of them, unless Yannick, you have any visibility into where we do have tracking.
Not on the top of my head.
So what I'll do is I'll provide that feedback from the group to Nicole and ask her, like, you know, before we do all the stuff, what's the usage on this? Do we know? Should we introduce some tracking to try to get that data? Because the easy solution might be to just link to the single vulnerability page instead of trying to do it in line in the modal. I think if I can, my understanding for this widget is that we have a license check approval rule. So if you have the security rule applied and let's say you detect a denied license, this merge request will be blocked. So the idea, I think, was that you could see the denied licenses right there. And it's like you were saying, it's almost like an app within a merge request, because you click on it, you see the denied license. And if you are a reviewer and you're looking at this MR as a reviewer, you can see the vulnerability. And as an approver, you can dismiss it. Or you could allow it by dismissing it, then you can unblock the merge request because now this vulnerability. I'm getting license compliance mixed. With the security widget, you would see a vulnerability that's detected, and as a security reviewer, you could go in and then say, hey, this is not actually a vulnerability, or this is one that is fine, and dismiss it, and then allow it to then be mergeable because you dismissed this detected vulnerability. I think that was the intent, just some context. The other thing is,
if there's not instrumentation, I mean, Snowplow's not going to give us enough data because that's SaaS only. And so we're not going to know in self-managed where we're more likely to see heavier secure or testing usage. And so if there's not instrumentation, that's fine. I know we had talked about it when this working group started, but maybe we didn't follow through on making sure the components were naturally instrumented moving forward, because we do need to know those things and we need to be better about that. So maybe I'll create some issues to make sure we foundationally make sure there's instrumentation in the component moving forward, and we can figure that out. I don't think we have time to wait for self-managed instances to upgrade and get to a version that has instrumentation and wait more cycles to get data back. So that's not likely a feasible thing. So we may need to go down this path, but yeah, if anyone checks and there is more usage data, it'd be good to have that.
And I guess I just also want to call out that Becca has been kind of advocating on behalf of the secure team. So if you need to, from a UX design standpoint, Becca is a good person to reach out if you need clarity on any of the secure stage related concerns. She's very willing and able to help. I did want to add that because we didn't want license compliance or the security widget to hold up the group's efforts to roll this out, I do have an MR up to introduce a feature flag. It's a nested feature flag, unfortunately, which I'm not a huge fan of, but the idea is that you need to have the extension feature flag on and license compliance for license compliance to show up. If you just have the extension, it should render all the other extensions minus license compliance, and license compliance will just show the legacy one. That was just like a safety backup net in case the group wanted to push forward much more sooner. I'm not sure if our intent is still to roll them out altogether or to say we have enough to roll out some of them.
So to give a quick summary, I think right now we are at 7 that are ready to be rolled out. License compliance seems to be ready in the next milestone based on the current estimation. For secure, we don't have a current estimation. Scott, do you know about test summary? When would that be ready to be rolled out, at least in the first iteration?
The majority of it will be done this milestone, besides the modal work.
Do you know whether it was discussed whether the modal work would be a requirement to roll it out, or would it be fine to roll the first iteration of it without the modal?
I can discuss it with Gina, our UX designer. We'll create a follow-up issue for the modal work at least, and discuss it there. If needed, we can also create a nested feature flag for the test report widget.
How does everyone feel? Would 7 be enough widgets for us to roll them out all at once? Do we want to have the other ones follow up in the next 1 or 2 milestones? What does everybody think about?
I think it'd be worth prioritizing nested feature flags now and rolling the 7, turning the 7 on GitLab.com now. The sooner we do that, the sooner we know what's going on. And then we can, if in 15 we can toggle on the other ones, then we toggle on the other ones. If we can't, we can stay .com only, for a period of time. I think the earlier we turn this on, the better. There are not many projects that show all 9 widgets or any. And so it's going to be really hard to collect feedback. Even in the GitLab project, we don't use half of these things, right? So like, it's going to be hard to collect feedback. So the sooner we can get it onto a broader audience, the better, I think.
Yeah, from an engineering perspective, given that these are 7 more ways that we're actually consuming our APIs, not that this rollout is much of a risk, but 7 still sounds like more than enough to me. So we should be good.
As a follow-up to the to enabling this thing, I just wanted to call out that in staging recently, the feature flag was enabled globally. I had to disable it from the global scope because it looks like it was breaking some automation tests. I don't know if it was limited to just license compliance. I think we might have some like browser automation. Any suggestions on that rollout strategy? So I guess putting up an MR to update the unit test before we toggle a feature flag, or should these automation tests be handling both versions behind the feature flag? I'm not sure how to approach this.
We broke a test yesterday, which is why I know. Typically, I think if it is new expected behavior, to automate, like the QA engineers will update the automated testing, like if that's the intent. And during a feature flag state, they like to be able to test with it off. And so like there's got to be a way for them to like know that, and so they can update test, or we can update test to make sure they're off. But I don't know, do we have anyone from QA in the working group, Andre? Probably not. And we lost our QA engineer in code review, which sounds bad. It might be worth reaching out, Andre, if you don't mind, to like QA and just see what they think. I imagine we'll break a lot of tests when all these widgets are turned on, because anything that's doing like trying to navigate to specific elements in the DOM is going to fail if we've changed any of the nesting or any of the names on any of that stuff. It'll all fail. So it'd be good to give them a heads up at least.
So what I might do, yeah, we did have Tommy on the working group, which was the SCT that left. I'll reach out to Ramya to see if we can have someone else help us out in rolling this out, to make sure that we have a backup, someone backing us up from that side. And maybe, I think that's part of the rollout. So whenever we decide to start actually turning this on, is going to be ensuring that all the steps are covered. So yeah, I'll reach out to Ramya, get someone involved that can help us through that process. I do have Phil on holiday for at least another week. So I'll be much more comfortable starting to roll this out with him present. So that would put us on 5.0, I think, starting to roll this out. In terms of time frame, is that okay, or do you want to start it like the next couple of days, starting to turn this on in staging it? Well, not staging. Yeah, beyond staging is out of our options at this point. Because we have to sort of.
I think we're blocked on even staging until the nested feature flags are there, right? Like we'd need to understand that behavior and make sure it's working properly before we sort of do anything there. So that's why I say I think we need to get the feature flag for the testing and the license compliance widgets. Like if we can do that this week and next, like if we can shift people to sort of add those secondary feature flags, then that puts us in a position to be able to like test what we believe the intended rollout to .com would be, which would be 1 on and these 2 below it off.
Okay. So let's write that down actually. So, so pending, start a new section, pending tasks, actually tasks, blocking, rollout. It's basically the nested feature flag for, help me out here, people, test summary and
license compliance, and then security not dashboard, security widget. I guess.
Okay.
I guess security.
So once we have that, we can, so then it's the staging / QA tests, broken tests. So those are two things that are blocked. Anything else that you mentioned, Kai? Anything that might have missed?
I think the only question was, so we have right now, I had to turn off the feature flag and staging with the ignore feature flag check or something flag because it's enabled for some projects in production. We have some test projects. Do we have any known test projects and staging that we want to enable it for? Because I wanted to turn it on, at least scope to a project, so we can have that to reference. Right now, it's disabled globally as of yesterday, just so we could get those tests passing.
I don't think we do.
Should I make an attempt to clone the ones in production, export those and import them into staging? And I don't know where they'll live, but if someone could give me a namespace to put them in, I could try to mirror the one. I don't know if it's an exact mirror. I don't know if that the existing project is under like I forget.
I think
Yeah.
Scott created the ones in production, right, Scott?
Yes.
The MR widgets demo.
Yeah. But people keep adding to it. But yeah, it's there. There's a bookmark in the Slack channel as well.
Yeah, there's also on the document in the agenda.
Yeah.
I'm just saying that if it helps, it might be useful for you to just export that project and try to import it into a namespace in staging because you have access to the export, right? Or do we all have access to the?
We should all have access. It's just in the front end playground.
Yeah,
Group.
I have access to it too. My
Yeah, we
question
do.
is, do we have a GitLab org front end playground
In
GR?
staging?
Yeah, like does that section exist in staging?
Well,
Playground.
create one. If we don't, create one.
Okay. All right. I'll try to. Scott, do you want to do that, or do you want me to do it, or?
If you can, that'd be great.
Thanks for that.
Make an attempt there. I'll add it to my to-do. Thanks.
Okay. Cool. All right, so let's track those tasks. I'll put this in the agenda for next week, at least for us to keep checking in on those things. The staging QA broken tests, I'll reach out to Ramya to find SET to assist us, and then we'll see from there. I'll keep you posted on that front. Anything else? Rami, who's Rami? Rami, wait, it's not. Gosh, my leave has been blocking my brain. All right. Anything else, gentlemen, that we need to discuss? We're at time too. So if not, thank you so much. See you next week.